15 years after a harrowing war, Sri Lanka's path to reconciliation remains distant. Deep psychological wounds from the conflict continue to impede healing, especially for those awaiting justice for lost loved ones. The ground realities in recent times reveal an intersectional range of issues. For one, the enforced disappearances of tens of thousands of Sri Lankans since the 1980s remains largely unaddressed. With the nation having the second highest number of disappearances in the world, genuine truth and reconciliation have been evasive. This concern intertwines with other emblematic cases to which the state has paid no heed or, more worryingly, impeded justice through the intimidation and surveillance of those seeking answers. The perpetrators of mass massacres, torture, and disappearances are consequently shielded by state-condoned impunity. The Sri Lankan government has a track record of establishing various investigative bodies and legislative measures aimed at fostering reconciliation, but with limited tangible impact on victims and affected communities. These include a long list of commissions of inquiry, presidential commissions of inquiry, and legislative acts such as the Office of Missing Persons Act and the Office of Reparations Act. Despite the promise to address past grievances and promote harmony, the root causes of the conflict are still to be addressed, with victims yet to see reckoning and redress. The effectiveness of these measures has been hindered by the absence of political commitment and leadership from successive Sri Lankan governments. Notably, progress towards reconciliation has mainly occurred in response to international pressure, particularly from the United Nations Human Rights Council. Resolution 30/1 in 2015 has continuously underscored the importance of implementing agreed upon measures. At the heart of Sri Lanka's struggle to achieve reconciliation lies the absence of accountability and justice for victims. Numerous emblematic cases remain pending in court, illustrating the extensive delays in delivering justice and the consistent denial by the government regarding past abuses. Moreover, the continued use of the Prevention of Terrorism Act 1979 exemplifies ongoing governmental abuse. Initially enacted as a temporary measure, it has been abused for over 4 decades to suppress public dissent, disregarding principles of truth, reconciliation, and exacerbating injustice in Sri Lankan society. The continued reliance on security and terrorism laws has normalized state violence and torture and a culture of impunity in the country. In addition, recent attempts at law reforms, such as laws that restrict freedom of speech and association, raise concerns with the shrinking space for dissent and the erosion of the rule of law. Justice has been denied in how the civil war is remembered. State-led efforts only highlight the heroism of the military. This one-sided approach, whether it's in school textbooks, building statues, or even tearing down minority statues, makes reconciliation difficult in Sri Lanka. Minorities face intimidation and surveillance from the state if they attempt to memorialize their loved ones, consequently adding to the problem. Reconciliation faces additional challenges due to ongoing land seizures and militarization in the north and the east. The security forces have been heavily involved in taking and controlling land in the areas in the post-war that has contributed to the decades of displacement and dispossession of local communities. The struggle that minorities face in these areas is further aggravated by the involvement of state entities and other actors such as Buddhist monks and private companies appropriating lands with the possibility of creating new triggers for conflict that not only impact reconciliation but also recovery and stability in the country. Another related issue is the citizenship status of Malayaha Tamils. Living in the hill country, these communities rely heavily on tea estate owners for essential services like healthcare, housing, and water access. They endure social and economic marginalization with documented injustices such as the demolition of their homes to expand plantations. These issues continue to intertwine with the language rights of the Tamil population. The prominence offered to one language at the cost of another has been a great source of tension for the ethnic conflict over the decades, causing feelings of diminished citizenship and marginalization for minorities. To fully realize this constitutional right in the interests of building trust and confidence between peoples is a long-term journey, but it is also one the government has scarcely taken any measures to achieve. In a recent survey conducted by the Center for Policy Alternatives, the majority of the population expressed their dissatisfaction on measures adopted to achieve reconciliation in Sri Lanka. Approximately 62.1% of both the Sinhalese and Tamil populations noted that there has been no progress made on reconciliation despite it being 15 years since the civil war ended. "15 years after the end of the war, the state must demonstrate a concerted effort to address the root causes of the war, beginning with an acknowledgement of the government's role in Sri Lanka's violent past abuses and perpetuating ethno-nationalism and authoritarianism. Unwillingness to address the root causes of the conflict, address confidence-building measures, and impunity will continue to exacerbate the triggers for conflict and prevent Sri Lanka fully realizing peace and stability."